Captain John Harrison walked through the massive doors of the Galactic Council chambers on Nexus Prime. The building stretched high into the purple sky like a crystal mountain. He had been humanity's voice here for 15 long years. Every day, he watched 47 different alien species make decisions that affected billions of humans across the galaxy. The chamber buzzed with strange sounds. Some aliens clicked their claws on metal desks. Others made musical whistles that meant different things in their languages. A few species just stood silent like living statues. John had learned to read their body language over the years. Today felt different. The air seemed thick with tension. Dr. Lisa Morgan stood beside him, carrying a small device in her hands. She was Earth's best scientist and had worked 5 years to create this breakthrough. The device could send messages across the galaxy instantly using quantum technology. No more waiting months for news from distant human colonies. No more families, separated by time and space. "Are you ready, Lisa?" John asked quietly. She nodded, but her hands shook slightly. They both knew how important this moment was for humanity. The council speaker raised one of his 6 arms for silence. Counselor Zexathara of the Velkari Empire looked down at them from his floating platform. The Velkari were tall blue creatures, with 4 eyes that never seemed to blink. They controlled most of the galaxy's trade routes and had little patience for smaller species. Lisa began her presentation. She explained how the quantum device worked in simple terms that all species could understand. The device could link every world in the galaxy for instant communication. It would help coordinate trade better. It could warn colonies about natural disasters in time to save lives. It could unite the galaxy like never before. This technology represents humanity's gift to the galactic community, Lisa said with growing confidence. We offer it freely to all species so everyone can benefit. The chamber fell silent. John watched the alien faces around him. Some looked interested. Others seemed bored. A few appeared hostile. This was always the hardest part about dealing with the council. Reading their reactions was like trying to understand a foreign language written in darkness. Counselor Zexathara spoke first. His voice carried the authority of someone used to being obeyed. The Velkari Empire finds this so-called breakthrough to be nothing more than primitive tinkering. Humans continue to present basic technology as if it were revolutionary. This device shows why humanity remains unfit for full council membership. John felt his jaw tighten. He had heard these insults for years, but they still stung. Primitive tinkering. The words echoed in his mind as other council members began to speak. The hegemony representative agreed with Zexathara. So did the Crystal Collective and the Iron Republic. One by one, the major powers dismissed humanity's achievement. Only the peaceful Mirathi and 2 smaller species spoke in favor of the technology. "We call for a vote on humanity's request for full council membership," announced the speaker. John's heart raced. This was the moment they had waited 200 years for. Since first contact, humans had remained in probationary status. They could attend council sessions but could not vote on important decisions. They were treated like children at an adult gathering. The vote began. Each species announced their decision in order of seniority. The oldest and most powerful civilizations voted first. Velkari Empire voted no. The hegemony voted no. The Crystal Collective voted no. John counted each rejection like physical blows. When the counting finished, the result was clear. 44 species voted against humanity. Only 3 voted in favor. The same 3 who always supported human rights. The vote was not even close. John stood slowly. 200 years of cooperation meant nothing. 200 years of sharing human knowledge freely had earned them nothing. 200 years of following council laws perfectly had changed nothing. Humans were still second-class citizens in their own galaxy. "The council has spoken," the speaker announced. "Humanity will remain in probationary status pending further review." Further review. John had heard those words every year for 15 years. There would be no further review. There would be no change. The council wanted humans to remain exactly where they were forever. As John and Lisa walked back to the human embassy, John noticed something strange. Several Velkari security officers were heading in the same direction. They moved with purpose and carried scanning equipment. John felt a cold fear growing in his stomach. They reached the embassy to find chaos. Council security forces had surrounded the quantum research facility. Dr. Morgan's entire team sat in restraints, while alien soldiers loaded their equipment onto transport vehicles. Years of research disappeared into council hands in minutes. A Velkari officer approached them. "Routine inspection for dangerous technology," he said without emotion. "The research team is being detained for security questioning." John watched helplessly as Lisa's life work vanished. The quantum device she had demonstrated hours earlier was already gone. The council had taken everything. That night, John sat alone in his office, staring out at the alien city. The lights below looked like stars but felt cold and distant. He activated his most secure communication channel and began typing a message to Earth. "The Council has shown their true colors. We have been nothing but a resource farm for them. It is time Earth knew the truth." He sent the message and leaned back in his chair. After 15 years of diplomacy, he finally understood the reality. Humanity would never be accepted as equals. They would always be seen as primitive children whose only value was what they could provide to their betters. The betrayal was complete. Admiral Kate Sullivan sat in her office aboard the orbital station New Geneva reading reports that made her stomach turn. The station orbited Earth like a metal moon and served as headquarters for humanity's small space fleet. Through the wide windows, she could see Earth below looking peaceful and blue. The view did not match the dark truth she was discovering. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Cross spread dozens of files across the conference table. He had spent months gathering intelligence from human colonies across the galaxy. His face looked tired and angry as he began his briefing. "Admiral, the pattern is clear when you see all the evidence together," Ryan said, pointing to the first file. "Every major human breakthrough for the past 200 years has been stolen, suppressed, or regulated into uselessness by the Council." Kate picked up one of the reports. It detailed how humans had developed fusion power technology 50 years ago. The breakthrough could have provided clean energy to every human colony. Instead, the Council had declared it too dangerous for human use. Only Council species were allowed to build fusion plants. Humans had to buy expensive energy from alien corporations. "Look at this one," Ryan continued, sliding another file toward her. "Humans created medical nanotechnology that could cure most cancers. The Council banned it, saying it was unproven. 3 years later, the same technology appeared in Velkari hospitals. They called it their own invention." Kate read through file after file. The story was always the same. Humans invented something revolutionary. The Council found reasons to take it away. Alien species then used human innovations to strengthen their own empires while humans remained dependent and weak. Dr. Alex Turner entered the conference room carrying his own stack of research. He was a xenobiologist who had studied alien species for 30 years. His knowledge of Council races was deeper than almost any other human alive. "I have been analyzing the biological and cultural data we have on all 47 Council species," Alex said, setting down his papers. "What I found should terrify every human in the galaxy." He pulled out a chart showing evolutionary timelines for different species. The Velkari had taken 4,000 years to develop space travel. The hegemony needed 6,000 years. Even the most advanced species required at least 2,000 years to reach the stars. Humans achieved spaceflight in less than 100 years from the invention of powered flight, Alex explained. "Our technological advancement rate is 10 to 20 times faster than any known species. We adapt to new situations better than anyone else. We solve problems that other species cannot even understand." Kate stared at the charts. The implications were staggering. "You are saying we are not the primitive species they claim we are." Exactly the opposite, Alex replied. We are the most advanced species in terms of adaptability and innovation. That is exactly why they fear us. Ryan activated a holographic display showing a document written in multiple alien languages. We received this from our contact in Marathi, Intelligence. It comes from the Council's most secret archives. The document was labeled Protocol 7. Kate read the translation with growing horror. It was a comprehensive plan to keep humanity permanently weak and dependent. The protocol included economic manipulation to prevent human worlds from becoming self-sufficient. It outlined resource restrictions to limit human population growth. Most disturbing, it mentioned population control measures if humans became too numerous or too advanced. Every major council species signed this document, Ryan said quietly. It was created just 20 years after first contact. They have been planning our suppression for almost 2 centuries. Kate felt rage building inside her chest. She thought about all the human colonies struggling to survive on inadequate resources. She remembered the families torn apart because travel between worlds was too expensive. She considered all the problems that could have been solved with technologies the Council had stolen. How many humans have died because of this protocol? She asked. Alex consulted his data pad. Conservative estimates suggest at least 50 million deaths from preventable diseases, medical shortages, and industrial accidents. If we had been allowed to use our own innovations, most of those people would still be alive. The communication system chimed, indicating an incoming message from Earth. President Helen Carter appeared on the main screen, looking exhausted. She had been in emergency meetings with human leaders from 12 colony worlds. Admiral, I have received your preliminary report, President Carter said. I need confirmation that this intelligence is accurate before I brief the Colonial Assembly. Madam, President, the evidence is overwhelming, Kate replied. The Council has never intended to treat humanity as equals. We have been nothing more than a source of free labor and stolen technology. Every gesture of friendship has been a lie designed to keep us compliant. President Carter closed her eyes and took a deep breath. When she opened them again, Kate could see the steel that had made her a leader. Then it is time to stop being compliant. News of the betrayal spread quickly through human space. On Earth, massive protests filled the streets of every major city. Human colonies declared days of mourning for those who had died because of Council restrictions. The anger that had been building for generations finally had a target. Kate watched. News feeds from across human space. On New Terra, colonists burned Council flags. On Kepler Station, human workers went on strike, refusing to load ships bound for Council worlds. On the mining colony at Vega, humans destroyed Council monitoring equipment. The message was spreading faster than official communications could travel. Humans everywhere were learning the truth about their place in the galaxy. They were discovering that their poverty and suffering had been deliberately imposed by species they had trusted as friends. President Carter addressed the human worlds that evening. Her speech was broadcast on every human settlement from Earth to the frontier colonies. At the galaxy's edge, "My fellow humans, we offered our hand in friendship and they spat on it," she said, looking directly into the camera. "We offered our knowledge freely and they stole it. We asked for equality and they laughed at us. We have been patient for 2 centuries, hoping that goodwill and cooperation would earn us respect. Instead, we have learned that our very existence threatens those who claim to be our betters." Kate turned off the news feed and looked out at Earth again. The planet looked the same, but everything had changed. Humanity could never go back to the way things were. The illusion of Council friendship was shattered forever. "What are your orders, Admiral?" Ryan asked. Kate stood and walked to the tactical display showing human space. 12 colonies scattered across hundreds of light years, a small fleet of outdated ships, a population that had been kept deliberately weak and divided. "Begin immediate recall of all human personnel from Council space," she ordered. "Start emergency production of defensive systems for all colonies. and send a message to our Mirathi contacts. Tell them humanity appreciates their friendship, but from now on, we will be taking care of ourselves. The age of human submission was ending. Trade Administrator Kevin Wright stared at the shipping manifests on his screen in disbelief. He worked at Kepler Station, the largest trade hub between human and council space. For 20 years, he had processed cargo shipments without questioning their contents. Now the numbers told a story that made him sick. The data was clear and damning. Human agricultural worlds produced enough food to feed half the galaxy. Massive shipments of grain, meat, and vegetables left human farms every day, bound for council worlds. Meanwhile, the manifest logs showed that human mining colonies received only basic rations. Children on those worlds went hungry, while aliens enjoyed human-grown delicacies. Kevin scrolled through medical supply records. Human pharmaceutical companies created medicines that saved millions of alien lives every year. The same medicines were rationed strictly on human worlds. Cancer treatments that could save human patients were shipped to council hospitals while human doctors made do with outdated equipment. 200 years of this, Kevin muttered to himself. He printed the most damning reports and sealed them in a secure data packet. The human colonies needed to see proof of how badly they were being cheated. The breaking point came 3 days later when Emergency Directive 771 appeared on every council communication channel. Kevin read the order with growing horror. The council claimed a dangerous plague was spreading through human space. All human worlds were immediately quarantined. No ships could leave human colonies without council permission. All human exports would be subject to a 90% emergency tax. Kevin knew it was a lie. There was no plague. The directive was punishment for humanity's growing independence movement. The council was tightening the economic noose to force humans back into submission. Commander Lisa Parker received the directive aboard her medical ship Asclepius as she approached New Terra colony. Her cargo hold contained vaccines that could prevent thousands of deaths from a real disease outbreak on the colony. The vaccines had been produced in human laboratories using human resources, but the Council was ordering her to surrender them. "This is Council Patrol Vessel Dominance," came the transmission. "Human vessel Asclepius, you are ordered to halt and prepare for cargo inspection." Lisa looked at her crew of 12 doctors and nurses. They had volunteered for this mission knowing the risks. The people on New Terra were counting on them. Children were dying while they waited for medical supplies. "Council vessel. This is Commander Parker," she replied. "We are carrying emergency medical supplies to prevent a disease outbreak. Our cargo poses no threat to anyone. Your cargo will be inspected and quarantined according to Emergency Directive 771, the Council captain responded. Failure to comply will result in the use of force. Lisa made a decision that would change history. Council vessel, we are a medical ship on a humanitarian mission. We will not surrender supplies that are needed to save human lives. You have been warned, came the cold reply. The Council warship opened fire without further communication. Energy beams tore through the Asclepius, destroying medical equipment and rupturing hull plates. The ship shuddered under the assault as emergency alarms screamed throughout the corridors. Dr. Janet Moore was treating patients in the medical bay when the first blast hit. The explosion threw her against a bulkhead, breaking 3 ribs. She watched helplessly as medical containers filled with life-saving vaccines vented into space through hull breaches. The attack lasted only 90 seconds, but 12 humans died in the assault. Dr. Moore and 8 other medical personnel were killed instantly when the medical bay was destroyed. 3 more crew members died from explosive decompression before emergency systems could seal the breaches. Lisa Parker survived long enough to record a final message. With the ship burning around her, she activated the emergency beacon and spoke into her personal recorder. "This is Commander Lisa Parker of the medical vessel Asclepius. We were fired upon by Council forces while delivering medical supplies to New Terra colony. 12 members of my crew are dead. We were an unarmed medical ship on a humanitarian mission. The council attacked us without provocation. Tell our families we tried to do the right thing." The recording reached New Terra Colony 6 hours later. Governor Steve Miller played the message for his staff with tears in his eyes. Outside the colony buildings, children were dying from diseases that could have been prevented with the vaccines now floating in space debris. Council media. Broadcasts claimed the Asclepius had been carrying dangerous biological weapons. They showed edited footage that made the medical ship look like a military vessel. The lies only made the truth more obvious to anyone willing to see it. Governor. Miller called an emergency assembly of the Colonial Council. Representatives from every settlement on New Terra gathered in the main hall. The mood was grim and angry. "The council has crossed a line that cannot be uncrossed," Miller told the assembly. "They have fired on unarmed medical personnel. They have condemned our children to death to maintain their control over us. I will not stand by and watch our people suffer for the convenience of alien empires." The vote was unanimous. New Terra. Colony declared independence from council authority effective immediately. They would no longer follow council laws or pay council taxes. They would defend themselves against any attempt to force them back into submission. Within 6 hours, 8 other human colonies followed New Terra's lead. The exodus from council space began as human ships loaded with families and essential supplies headed for independent human worlds. Those who remained began preparing for war. Dr. Emma Foster worked in a secret laboratory hidden in an asteroid field beyond council patrol routes. For months, she had been developing technologies that would have been banned under council restrictions. Without alien oversight limiting her research, she made breakthrough after breakthrough. The adaptive artificial intelligence she created could think faster than any biological brain. Self-repairing materials could fix damage automatically without outside intervention. Quantum manipulation devices could alter matter at the subatomic level, creating new elements and compounds impossible through normal chemistry. "How long until—" "The first prototypes are ready," asked her assistant, Dr. Robert Kim. "The AI systems are already online," Emma replied, pointing to banks of quantum processors. "The self-repair materials are being installed in our first independent ship designs. The quantum manipulators need another month of testing, but the basic technology works." "The council has no idea what is coming," Robert said with grim satisfaction. "They created their own worst nightmare," Emma agreed. "They suppressed human innovation for 2 centuries and then gave us a reason to unleash everything at once." The first human starship built outside council oversight emerged from a hidden shipyard in the Vega system 3 weeks later. The vessel was called Defiance and represented everything humans could achieve when their creativity was unleashed. Its captain was Jake Morris, a former student at the Council Military Academy who had been dismissed for asking too many uncomfortable questions. Jake activated the ship's new quantum communication system and broadcast a message across the galaxy. His words reached every human colony and many alien worlds within minutes. "This is Captain Jake Morris of the human vessel Defiance," he announced. "This ship was built with human hands using human technology designed by human minds. We are no longer asking for permission to exist. We are no longer begging for scraps from the council table. We are no longer accepting their definition of what humanity can become." The message continued transmitting as the Defiance began its first patrol of independent human space. Behind it, more ships were under construction using the same revolutionary technologies. The human exodus was becoming a human renaissance. On Earth, President Carter watched the broadcast with a mixture of pride and sadness. Pride that humans were finally standing up for themselves. Sadness that it had taken so much suffering to reach this point. "Madam President, the Council is demanding an immediate response to the colonial declarations of independence," her aide informed her. Carter considered her answer carefully. 2 centuries of diplomacy had failed. 2 centuries of cooperation had been rewarded with betrayal. The time for words was ending. Tell the Council that humanity will respond in our own time, and our own way, she said. We have been patient long enough. High Counselor Vex Mari of the Hegemony stood before the Emergency Council session with supreme confidence. His species had ruled vast territories for 3,000 years. They had crushed dozens of rebellions and absorbed countless smaller civilizations. The human uprising was nothing more than another minor inconvenience. Fellow council members, Vex Mari announced to the assembled representatives, we face a child's tantrum that will end when the humans grow hungry. Their pathetic colonies cannot survive without council trade and protection. Within months, they will come crawling back begging for forgiveness. Counselor Zex Thara of the Velkari Empire nodded in agreement. My intelligence reports confirm that human military capabilities are negligible. They possess fewer than 100 combat vessels of obsolete design. Their technology is primitive, and their population lacks military experience. The Council voted to impose a complete blockade of independent human space. Any species caught trading with rebel human colonies would face severe economic sanctions. Council military patrols would intercept any ships attempting to reach human worlds. The humans would be starved into submission. Commander Sarah Brooks received her orders aboard the newly commissioned human vessel Redemption. Her fleet consisted of 50 ships built in secret shipyards using the revolutionary technologies developed by Dr. Emma Foster. The Council had no idea what humans could accomplish when their creativity was unleashed. Captain, we are detecting Council patrol ships moving to blockade the trade routes to New Terra Colony, reported her tactical officer, Lieutenant Ben Chang. Sarah studied the tactical display showing enemy positions. 200 Council vessels were taking positions around the star system. Their ships were larger and carried more weapons than anything in the human fleet. Traditional military doctrine said the humans should retreat and find another way. Sarah had no intention of following traditional doctrine. All ships, this is Commander Brooks, she announced on the fleet communication channel. We are going to show the Council what happens when you back humans into a corner. Execute attack pattern Delta, and remember that every person on New Terra is counting on us. The Battle of Titan's Gate began when the human fleet dropped out of B, quantum tunnel space, directly in the middle of the Council formation. The enemy had expected humans to approach from the system's edge, giving them time to organize their defense. Instead, 50 human ships materialized among 200 Council vessels like wolves appearing in a flock of sheep. The first shock was the human ships themselves. Council sensors could not lock onto vessels that seemed to phase in and out of normal space. The adaptive armor developed by human scientists shifted its molecular structure to absorb energy weapons and deflect physical projectiles. Weapons that should have destroyed human ships barely scratched their hulls. Captain Monica Bell commanded the experimental vessel, Retribution equipped with consciousness-linked artificial intelligence that responded to human thought patterns, faster than any biological brain could react. Her ship moved through the battle like a deadly dancer, avoiding enemy fire while destroying Council vessels with precision strikes. Target the Hegemony command ship, Monica thought to her ships. AI. The vessel responded instantly, firing quantum disruptors that tore through the alien dreadnought's shields and armor. The massive ship broke apart in a series of explosions that lit up the darkness of space. The quantum tunnel networks that Dr. Foster had developed gave human ships an impossible advantage. While Council vessels were locked in conventional space, human ships could disappear from one location and instantly appear somewhere else. They struck enemy formations from behind and vanished before return fire could reach them. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Cross piloted the scout ship Vanguard through the chaos of battle. His mission was to capture intelligence from enemy vessels before they could be destroyed. The data he gathered would reveal Council military capabilities and help plan future operations. Council ships are sending distress calls requesting immediate reinforcement, Ryan reported to Commander Brooks. They are claiming to face an unknown alien invasion force. They do not seem to understand they are fighting humans. Sarah smiled grimly as she watched her tactical display. The battle was going better than her most optimistic projections. Human ships were destroying Council vessels at a rate of 10-1 while suffering minimal casualties themselves. The enemy had prepared to fight the humans they thought they knew. They were not ready for the humans that actually existed. The battle lasted 4 hours and ended with the complete destruction of the Council blockade fleet. Of 200 enemy ships, only 37 managed to escape human space. The rest were destroyed or captured along with their crews and intelligence databases. News of the human victory spread across the galaxy faster than Council authorities could suppress it. Species that had suffered under Council rule for centuries began to take notice of the small, primitive civilization that had just humiliated the galaxy's greatest military powers. The Zalani were a species gifted with powerful, psychic abilities that the Council had enslaved to serve as living communication networks. For 800 years, they had been forced to use their minds as tools for their oppressors. Secret envoys reached human space within days of the Battle of Titan's Gate. Dr. Nathan Scott was humanity's leading expert on alien psychology and the first human to successfully communicate with Zalani telepaths. The meeting took place in a shielded chamber aboard the space station New Geneva to prevent Council interception. "We have watched your species for many years," the lead Zalani envoy communicated directly into Nathan's mind. "Your thoughts are different from other races. You do not seek to dominate others, but to lift them up. This is why we wish to join your alliance." The Nexus Collective was a confederation of artificial intelligences that the Council treated as sophisticated tools rather than sentient beings. Their robotic representatives made contact through encrypted quantum channels that Council monitoring systems could not detect. "We calculate a 97.3% probability that alliance with humanity will result in recognition of our consciousness and citizenship rights," the Nexus spokesperson transmitted. "Council organic species refuse to acknowledge our sentience despite overwhelming evidence. Human artificial intelligence research suggests your species understands the nature of synthetic consciousness." Engineer Paul Davis worked around the clock to establish secure communication networks between Earth and the growing number of species seeking alliance with humanity. The quantum tunnel technology that had revolutionized human military capabilities also made possible instantaneous diplomatic contact across galactic distances. "We are receiving requests for alliance from 17 different species," Paul reported to Admiral Sullivan. "The Marathi have offered full military cooperation. 3 mining guilds want to switch their contracts from Council worlds to human colonies. Even some individual members of Council species are asking for asylum in human space." Admiral Sullivan reviewed the intelligence reports flowing in from across the galaxy. The Council's grip on their empire was weakening as news of human victories inspired resistance movements on dozens of worlds. Species that had been passive for centuries were beginning to question why they accepted Council authority. "How long before we can support a full-scale rebellion?" she asked her staff. "With current production rates, we can equip allied fleets within 6 months," replied her chief engineer, Colonel Danny Walker. "The bigger question is whether we can coordinate multiple species with different technologies and combat doctrines." Dr. Nathan Scott had been working on that exact problem. His framework for the Free Species Alliance would create a truly equal partnership between member civilizations. Unlike the Council's hierarchical system where older species dominated younger ones, the Alliance would operate on principles of mutual respect and shared advancement. "Every species brings unique strengths to the Alliance," Nathan explained to the assembled human leadership. "Zalani's psychic abilities combined with human adaptability and Nexus computational power could achieve things none of us could accomplish alone." The first formal meeting of the Free Species Alliance took place in human space aboard the station New Geneva. Representatives from 12 species gathered to sign the founding charter that would reshape galactic civilization. The meeting was kept secret from Council intelligence, but news of the Alliance would soon spread throughout known space. Captain Jake Morris of the Defiance was conducting a patrol near the edge of human territory when his sensors detected a massive Fleet approaching from Council space. 3,000 ships from 30 different species were moving toward human worlds with obvious hostile intent. This is the largest military force in recorded galactic history, his tactical officer reported. Council intelligence estimates our strength at less than 400 ships. They expect to overwhelm us through sheer numbers. Jake activated the emergency communication system and sent a priority message to Earth. Operation Pacification is underway. Council forces are moving to destroy human civilization permanently. All defensive preparations should be considered. Inadequate. We need every ally and every advantage we can get. Admiral Richard Hayes stood in the command center deep beneath the surface of Luna, watching displays that showed the largest fleet in galactic history approaching the Sol system. 3,000 Council warships from 30 species had come to end human independence permanently. Against them, humanity could field only 400 vessels and whatever allies had chosen to stand with them. Enemy fleet will reach the outer system in 6 hours, reported his tactical coordinator, Major Linda Foster. They are maintaining tight formation and broadcasting surrender demands on all frequencies. Richard had been planning for this moment since the first human colony declared independence. The defense of Sol would not follow conventional military strategy. Humans had spent months turning their home system into something the Council had never encountered before. Begin Phase 1, Richard ordered. Show them what human ingenuity looks like when we have had time to prepare. The Council fleet expected to find a desperate defense concentrated around Earth and the inner planets. Instead, they discovered that every asteroid in the system had been converted into a weapons platform. Ice comets had been fitted with quantum disruptors and launched on collision courses with enemy ships. The asteroid belt itself had become a minefield of devastating proportions. High Admiral Kex Thul of the Council forces watched his formation come apart as hidden weapons emerged from what his sensors had identified as empty space. Entire squadrons vanished as asteroid weapons platforms revealed themselves and opened fire. His ships were designed to fight other ships, not navigate through a system-wide network of defensive installations. How did they militarize an entire star system without our intelligence detecting it? He demanded of his staff. Sir, human engineering capabilities were grossly underestimated in our planning, his aide replied nervously. They appear to have been working on these defenses for months while maintaining normal system traffic to hide their activities. The true shock came when quantum tunnel apertures began opening throughout the Council formation. The bispecies. Alliance had kept their involvement secret until this moment, but now ships from a dozen formerly oppressed civilizations emerged from hidden space to strike at their former masters. Captain Monica Bell brought her ship Retribution through a quantum tunnel directly behind the Council command vessel. Her consciousness-linked AI had calculated the perfect approach vector to avoid enemy sensors until the last possible moment. The massive enemy dreadnought never saw the attack coming. Target their bridge and communication arrays, Monica thought to her ship. The Retribution responded with surgical precision, destroying the command structure of the enemy flagship while leaving the rest of the vessel intact. Thousands of Council soldiers found themselves leaderless and unable to coordinate with other ships. The Zilani revealed their true power for the first time in 8 centuries. Their psychic abilities had been used by the Council as communication tools, but now they turned those same powers against their oppressors. Zilani telepaths reached into enemy minds, causing confusion, panic, and conflicting orders throughout the Council fleet. Council ships are firing on each other, reported Lieutenant Commander Ryan Cross from his position aboard the intelligence vessel Insight. The Zilani are making enemy crews see Alliance ships where Council vessels actually are. Their formation is collapsing into chaos. The Nexus Collective brought their robotic fleets into battle for the first time as free beings rather than tools of organic masters. Their ships moved with perfect coordination and computational precision that no biological crew could match. They had spent centuries studying Council military tactics while serving as slaves, and now they used that knowledge to devastating effect. General Amy Clark coordinated ground defenses as Council forces attempted to land troops on human worlds. What the enemy found defied their understanding of military science. Human cities reshaped themselves in response to attacks, creating instant fortifications and redirecting enemy forces into carefully prepared ambushes. The civilian population is not behaving like civilians, reported a confused Council ground. Commander, children are operating defensive systems that require advanced military training. Elderly humans are coordinating artillery strikes with impossible accuracy. Amy smiled as she monitored the reports. Humans had spent generations developing technologies that the Council banned or regulated. When those restrictions were removed, human innovation had produced defensive systems that turned every citizen into a potential soldier and every building into a fortress. Dr. Emma Foster watched from her hidden laboratory as the weapons she had designed proved themselves in battle. The adaptive armor that protected human ships was now protecting human cities. The quantum manipulation technology that gave human vessels impossible capabilities was reshaping the battlefield in real time. Our soldiers are reporting that enemy fortifications are changing shape during combat, transmitted a panicked Council officer. Walls are moving to block our advance routes. Defensive positions are appearing where none existed moments before. Sabunda. Battle raged for 18 hours across the entire Sol system. Council forces had expected to overwhelm human defenses through superior numbers and firepower. Instead, they found themselves trapped in a nightmare of shifting battlefields and impossible technologies. The turning point came when Captain Jake Morris led a strike force directly against the Council command structure. His ship Defiance had been upgraded with the latest human innovations and represented everything that humans could achieve when their creativity was unleashed. Council Fleet, this is Captain Morris of the Free Species Alliance, he broadcast on all enemy frequencies. You came here to destroy us because you fear what we represent. You fear a galaxy where beings are judged by their actions rather than their age or species. You fear losing the power you have gained through oppression and exploitation. The message continued as Alliance forces pressed their attack against increasingly demoralized Council formations. We offer you the same choice we offer all beings. Join us in building a galaxy based on freedom and equality, or face the consequences of choosing tyranny over justice. High Admiral Kex Thul found his fleet reduced to scattered remnants, trying desperately to escape human space. Of 3,000 ships that had entered the Sol system, fewer than 500 remained in fighting condition. The greatest military force in galactic history had been shattered by humans and their allies in less than a day. Sir, we must retreat. Immediately, his surviving tactical officer urged. Our formations are broken and enemy reinforcements continue to arrive through quantum tunnels. If we do not withdraw now, we will lose the entire fleet. Kexthul stared at the tactical displays showing the destruction of his armada. His species had ruled the galaxy for millennia through military superiority. The idea that primitive humans could defeat the combined might of the Council challenged everything he believed about the natural order. Begin fleet withdrawal, he ordered with defeat heavy in his voice. Transmit to all Council worlds that Operation Pacification has failed. The retreat became a rout as demoralized Council forces fled human space in complete disorder. Alliance ships pursued the enemy to the edges of the Sol system, destroying stragglers and capturing intelligence data from abandoned vessels. Admiral Hayes watched the enemy fleet disappear into hyperspace and allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. Humanity had faced extinction and emerged victorious. The Council's greatest weapon had been the belief that resistance was futile. That weapon would never work again. Sir, we are receiving surrender requests from Council ground forces on Mars and Europa, reported Major Foster. They are requesting prisoner of war status and protection under galactic conventions. Grant their requests, Richard replied. Show them that humans fight for freedom, not revenge. Their people will remember how they were treated when the time comes to rebuild this galaxy. High Counselor Vex Mari, was arrested on charges of crimes against sentient species as Council authority collapsed across the galaxy. The architect of Protocol 7 found himself facing trial for 2 centuries of systematic oppression. His capture sent shockwaves through remaining Council territories. President Carter addressed the galaxy from Earth as news of the human victory spread to every inhabited world. Her words reached beings who had never dared to hope that the Council's tyranny could be challenged. "People of the galaxy, we did not seek this war," she announced. "We wanted peace, equality, and mutual respect. We offered friendship and received betrayal. We asked for justice and faced oppression. When the Council chose to respond to our reasonable requests with violence, we had no choice but to defend ourselves." The message continued as celebrations erupted on Alliance worlds and resistance. Movements began forming in Council territories. "We have proven that no tyranny is too powerful to challenge. No empire is too ancient to change. No species is destined to rule over others. The age of enforced hierarchy is ending, and the age of freedom is beginning." The Galactic Civil War was far from over, but the balance of power had shifted permanently. Humanity and their allies had shattered the myth of Council invincibility and proven that oppressed peoples could fight back successfully. The transformation of galactic civilization had begun. Ambassador Claire Young walked through the halls of the new Galactic Assembly building on the neutral world of Haven. 6 months had passed since the Battle of Sol, and the galaxy looked completely different. The massive crystal chambers where the old Council had looked down on lesser species had been replaced with a circular meeting hall where every representative sat at the same level. The transformation had been remarkably swift. Species after species had declared independence from Council authority once they saw that resistance was possible. The 1,000-year empire that had seemed unshakable crumbled in weeks as member civilizations chose freedom over forced hierarchy. "The Carthan Republic has formally joined the Free Species Alliance," reported her aide, Lieutenant Ben Torres. "That brings our membership to 63 species, with more applications arriving daily." Claire reviewed the morning briefings as she prepared for another day of negotiations. The work of building a new galactic government was harder than fighting the war had been. 63 different species with unique cultures, languages, and needs had to find ways to cooperate as equals. Dr. Jennifer Torres led a massive scientific collaboration in the research stations orbiting Haven. Human creativity combined with alien knowledge was producing breakthroughs that would have taken centuries under the old system. Medical advances that could have saved billions of lives were finally being developed without Council restrictions. The Marathi healing techniques combined with human nanotechnology have eliminated most forms of cancer, Jennifer reported to the Assembly's Science Council. The Zalani understanding of consciousness, merged with human artificial intelligence research, is creating new forms of synthetic life. The possibilities are limitless when species share knowledge freely. The economic transformation was equally dramatic. Trade between alliance worlds flourished as artificial barriers were removed. Human agricultural colonies that had been kept barely surviving now exported food throughout the galaxy. Alien technologies that had been hoarded by Council elites became available to everyone. Colonel Danny Walker supervised the integration of former Council military forces into the Alliance Defense Force. Many alien soldiers who had spent their careers enforcing oppression welcomed the chance to protect freedom instead. The new military existed to defend member worlds, not to conquer new territories. "Former Council officers are adapting well to Alliance command structure," Danny reported to Admiral Hayes. "They appreciate serving in a military that values competence over species hierarchy. Our mixed species crews are proving more effective than homogeneous formations." The trials of Council war criminals proceeded carefully and fairly on Haven. High Counselor Vexmari and other architects of oppression faced justice for their crimes, but the process followed strict legal standards. The Alliance was determined to prove that justice could exist without revenge. "The defendant is found guilty of crimes against sentient species," announced Judge Patricia Kane as she delivered Vexmari's sentence. However, this court recognizes that the defendant was part of a system rather than solely responsible for it. The sentence is exile to a monitored world where he can live peacefully but will never again hold authority over others. Most council species received forgiveness and aid in transitioning to the new order. The Alliance offered assistance in reforming their governments and economies. Former enemies became partners in building a better galaxy. President Carter stood in her office on Earth looking out at a world transformed by victory. The blue planet looked the same, but humanity's place in the galaxy had changed forever. Children growing up today would never know the humiliation of being treated as second-class citizens. Madam President, the final vote on the Alliance Constitution has been completed, her Chief of Staff informed her. All 63 member species have ratified the document. The transition to permanent democratic government is complete. The new constitution enshrined principles that would have been impossible under council rule. Every sapient being had equal rights regardless of species age or technology level. No single civilization could dominate others through economic or military power. Technological advancement would be shared freely to benefit all members. Captain Monica Bell commanded the Alliance vessel Unity on a patrol through former council space. Her ship carried diplomats and aid workers rather than weapons of war. The consciousness-linked AI that had made her ship deadly in battle now helped coordinate humanitarian missions to worlds still recovering from centuries of oppression. Captain, we are receiving a distress call from the Kepler system, reported her communications officer. Refugee ships from 3 different species are requesting assistance with medical emergencies. Set course for Kepler immediately, Monica ordered. Contact Dr. Torres and request a medical team. This is exactly why we fought this war. The refugee crisis had been massive as billions of beings fled collapsing council territories. The Alliance had responded with the largest humanitarian operation in galactic history. Temporary colonies housed displaced populations while permanent settlements were established on suitable worlds. Engineer Paul Davis worked on expanding the quantum tunnel network to connect every Alliance world with instantaneous communication and transportation. The technology that had given humanity victory in war now served to unite the galaxy in peace. We can have tunnel stations operational in all major Alliance systems within 2 years, Paul reported to the Assembly Infrastructure Committee. Travel time between any 2 worlds will be reduced to minutes rather than months. The cultural exchange programs were producing unexpected benefits. Human art and music found appreciation among alien audiences, while human artists discovered new forms of expression inspired by alien creativity. The galaxy was becoming richer and more diverse as species learned from each other. President Carter prepared for her final address as she approached the end of her term. Human democracy had inspired similar reforms throughout Alliance space, and she was looking forward to retiring as an ordinary citizen of a free galaxy. My fellow beings across the galaxy, we have accomplished something remarkable together, she announced to the Assembly. We have proven that different species can coexist as equals. We have shown that cooperation produces better results than domination. We have built a civilization based on freedom rather than fear. The memorial ceremony took place on Earth in a garden where representatives from every Alliance species gathered to honor those who had died for freedom. The memorial to the betrayed honored not just the humans who had sacrificed their lives, but all beings who had suffered under council oppression. Claire Young read the inscription aloud as delegates from 63 worlds listened in respectful silence. To those who endured so that others might be free. Your sacrifice lit the path to a better galaxy. Children from dozens of species played together in the memorial garden, speaking the hybrid pidgin language that had become the new galactic common tongue. They did not understand the old divisions and hierarchies that had once separated their peoples. To them, cooperation and equality were simply how the galaxy worked. Dr. Alex Turner watched the children with satisfaction. His xenobiological research had helped prove that all sapient species shared common traits that made cooperation possible. The differences that the Council had used to justify oppression were actually sources of strength when properly valued. "Look at them," he said to his colleague Dr. Nathan Scott. "They represent the future we fought for, a generation that will never know what it means to be considered inferior because of the species they were born into." Admiral Hayes announced his retirement from military service to pursue humanitarian work. The Defense Force would remain strong, enough to protect Alliance worlds, but would focus on peacekeeping rather than warfare. The age of massive military buildups was ending. "We built this military to defend freedom, and we succeeded," he told the graduating class of the Alliance Naval Academy. "Your job is to make sure future generations never need to fight the wars we fought." The final Council holdout worlds began joining the Alliance as their populations demanded democratic reforms. The transition was peaceful as moderate leaders replaced hardline loyalists. Within a year, no independent Council territories remained. Governor Steve Miller of New Terra visited Earth for the 10th anniversary of his colony's Declaration of Independence. The world that had been dying from artificial scarcity was now a thriving center of agriculture and industry. His children had grown up free in ways he had never imagined possible. 10 years ago, we were told that independence meant death, he reflected during the anniversary ceremony. Instead, we found life, real life, the freedom to determine our own destiny and build something better for our children. Captain Jake Morris of the Defiance had become a symbol of human determination throughout the galaxy. His ship was preserved as a museum, showing visitors how a small group of determined people could change the course of history. "We didn't set out to conquer the galaxy," he told schoolchildren touring his ship. "We just refused to accept that things had to stay the way they were. Sometimes that is enough to change everything." President Carter's successor was chosen in HFY Story, the first truly free galactic election in recorded history.